Good morning, everybody. My name is Colin. I'm with Total Building Care, or TBC. I don't have the fancy PowerPoint or quite the technical presentation that you guys just had. We're a general contractor. We work with property management almost exclusively with property management companies and HOAs. And I was going to speak just a little bit. I don't really know all that you guys have heard so far, but I was going to speak a little bit about something that I see all the time that I think is really important for HOAs. And that's clarity in contracts and matching scopes of work. Probably half the time that we come to bid a job for an HOA, there's some confliction between the scopes of work between the bidders, meaning that, you know, with construction there's 5 different ways to do anything, 5 different approaches, and quite often you'll find that as a board you're sitting down to evaluate a bid and make the best decision, and the bids may not be equal representation of the task at hand. And so one of the things that I suggest is that if you have a go-to contractor, or you have somebody that you trust and work with, or sometimes a consultant on larger projects, you find somebody that you have communication with that really understands the property, understands what it is that the board's looking for, and quite often I'll be, or my estimators will be the first bidders on the project. You know, it's the board's fiduciary responsibility to get multiple bids, and we know that and we realize that. But it's kind of difficult if you're getting different representations of work. And a lot of the estimates that you'll see are second generation commercial estimate templates, or Xactimate, or one of these kind of things. And it's very difficult, even as a contractor at a glance. I mean, of course, you've been doing it for a long time, but for a homeowner or a board member, it can be very difficult to understand the scope of work at hand. And so us, consequently, being specifically working with HOAs and property management, I've trained all my guys and all of our estimators. A lot of them have backgrounds in new construction and can write a 15-page insurance estimate in a template from Xactimate or Timberline or one of these. But what I tell them to do is write it as if you're writing it for one of your family members. Show exactly the process, starting from the beginning. What are you going to remove? What are you expecting to see? Show a picture of what's going to be removed. Put it in layman's terms so that the board understands exactly what's going to be done. And from there, a suggestion is to take somebody, if it's not us or if it's another contractor that you're close with, explain exactly what it is that you're looking for, the scope of work that you want, agree on that methodology for the bid, and then transfer that bid out to your other bidders. Cover up the name or the price or what have you, and put it out to bid so that everybody's bidding identical scope of works, if you're at that point for making a decision. Because quite often we'll see where we're bidding on something and we've got a method of doing it that we think is correct, where maybe another contractor has had a different conversation or has a different way of doing it. So without going too deep into it, it's a suggestion of mine that you guys, if you find somebody that you trust or that you work with, or that has that communication with you and really understands the property and what it is that you're looking for, allow them a chance to write a scope of work for you and then put it out to bid to the other bidders, unless you're in that discovery phase where you want to see the different processes and methodologies. One thing that we see a lot of, we do a lot of exterior wood replacement and paint. We do everything, but we have a sister company that's a painting company, and we do a lot of paint jobs coupled with construction, which is typically, you know, siding, decking, wood replacement, things like this. And one thing that I'll see that I really have trouble understanding is when you'll see a paint bid and it'll have a linear foot price for wood. As a board, you know, it's almost impossible to know where the project's going to come up unless somebody's taken the time to go through and do an actual Excel estimate showing each and every piece of wood and where it is and how it's going to be replaced and what's going to be replaced with it. And so I don't know if I've been 5 minutes here, but that was just a little suggestion that I had that I thought is helpful for boards, and you know, it's something that we do quite often. Anybody have any questions? No? Have I gone 5 minutes? Okay, well, let's see, what else? Deferred maintenance. You know, one thing I think that's important for HOAs, quite often we'll be brought into properties. We deal with a lot of properties that are distressed, properties that have maybe more work than they're able to do, you know, for funding reasons and whatnot. And one thing that I think is good for a property is to have somebody on the board who really kind of spearheads the maintenance part of the property. And typically it's somebody who's got a little experience or knows their way around a building. and kind of put a methodology together of what you're going to work on and how it's going to be done and when it's going to be done. Because we'll go into properties where they say, you know, we're ready to paint, but can you take a look at our decks? Well, you know, to the untrained eye, you know, they look like they're getting a little, you know, worn out, but we look at them and we go, wow, you know, you guys have $50,000 worth of deck replacement. It needs to happen here. If it goes another season, you're looking at probably getting some framing. And so it's always nice when we go to a property and we've got kind of a clear idea of what needs to be done, and somebody from the board who kind of spearheads it, that communicates with the property manager. Quite often it's the property manager, but in some cases, you know, having a board member who's kind of in tune with what needs to be done and prioritizing it. I was on a property yesterday, similar kind of thing, actually looking at an exterior paint job that's about to happen, and as I walked up, to the untrained eye, the deck looks like it's a little shoddy, but it's no big deal. I looked at it and I you know, let the board member know, I think you might have an issue over there. And we went over there, and it's actually a cantilever deck, right? And these are the decks that don't have any posts, meaning that the deck itself is suspended off the side of the building on the second floor. Well, there's a little dry rot here and throughout the property that's going to be replaced. It's actually bid into the painting project, or going to be bid into the painting project. But this cantilever deck, because it has no posts and it's suspended from the side of the building, if the main supports for that cantilever deck go bad or dry rot, you have to go twice the distance of the deck into the building, because it actually is held suspended by the building itself. So what they're thinking is, well, there's a few feet of dry rot right there, we'll take care of that. You know, I had to be the unfortunate bearer of bad news and tell them, you've got to go, you know, 12 feet into the building to replace it, either from the ceiling or from below, which typically means you're going to have to move somebody out of their place, and it's got to be engineered, and it's got to have plans and all this kind of stuff. And it was caused from just a simple, what could have been a $700 top coat on a deck. If somebody would have inspected it and seen that there was a crack along the perimeter below the weep screed and touched it up, you know, maybe $600-700, and it'd be good for another 5 or 6 years. And so that kind of deferred maintenance stuff like that, you know, I really suggest that you guys use your vendors. If your property manager is familiar with buildings and knows his way around it, use them for that. And we're always available too. Yes, ma'am.